Morning, everybody. I'm going to show you 3 different ways to do Simon Says. This is an older one we did back when we were first starting strings, but it's been on my to-do list and figured I'd hammer it out today. So we've all played the Simon Says game. You perform whatever actions are predicated by Simon Says. If they say anything else or if they say something without using that phrase, we ignore it entirely. And that's the gist of the program. So we've got text files to read in, and we are going from here. So if we notice, each file has a little bit of metadata telling us how many statements are going to be there. So we'll judge that. Notice right here, the output is only the action if it says Simon Says. Okay, so we've got Simon Says smile, we output smile. Stop smiling, no Simon Says. And Simeon says. Simeon is not Simon. So we need to check explicitly that Simon says, and then if he does, we do the thing. Okay? There are 2 other files as well that I gave you options to, and their output. So we've got 3 different files. I've got 3 ways of showing you, and here is your pseudocode, or some hints rather. So the end is grabbed by next int. Depends on if you want to use it. If you do, you can use it as a counter. I probably won't. Call next line to clear out the values, resetting our buffer. Write a loop that runs n times, read the loop, and use the following string methods to determine if it says Simon Says and print them there. Length substring starts with equals. Do not hard code in. Good. All right, so here's my basic skeleton. I do need to make some adjustments. Now I'm reading in files. So that means I need to include my other version. And that means I need to switch up my scanner. And the name of the first one we'll be doing is simon1.txt. Is there? Oh. And because I'm using file, I've got to handle exceptions. There we go. Okay, now I still get questions on how do you know where to put your files. Well, it's very simple. So I go to my documents, because I'm using a real IDE. Replit, you just load them right there in the browser window. I go to NetBeans, and then here are my projects. Here's my recorded library, and I've got them all here. The file name and the data type has to match. These are .text, TXTs, so that's what I'm referring to them as. Okay? So the first one is starts with. This is probably the simplest and what many of you probably used. First thing I need to do so that handles my metadata. I just read it and get rid of it. Then I do the read has next, and this will take care of it no matter how many lines of text I have. So now I've got it in here. Starts with is a very nice program or method, but it only works if it explicitly matches. So it has to be same spelling, same capitalization, same punctuation, whatever we define has to match perfectly. So that's our first value. If text starts with, and let's define that as Simon Says with extra space. If that happens, system.out.print text.substring, and I need to know where to start. I only want smile, so starting at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So starting at 11 is what I want to print out. All right. And then for the sake of this, since I know what I'm going to do later, I'm going to close my scanner. Okay. So let's run it. We should get smile. Very good. All right. I go back to check. There's 2 and 3. We'll look at those respectively as well. All right. So that is option 1. Okay. Option 2 is contains. Okay. Now I'm basically going to do the exact same thing here. I'm just going to change a few lines. So I'll go ahead and grab my whole while. I am going to change my scanner here to 2. Now this is why we closed it. A scanner can only have 1 file in it at a time, so I have to close it up here before I reuse that same scanner. There are 2 alternatives. One, I could run this code with just 1 file, stop it, change the text file, run it again, and do the same for the third. The other option would be I could just create 3 scanners to read 3 files and not have to bother with closing at all. Those are up to you. I'm going to open and close just to save a little memory. Okay, I still handle the metadata by ignoring it. I still have my loop that takes care of things while it is there. And this time I'm going to use contains. So I still have text. You might ask, why am I redeclaring text? Well, because up here, it only existed inside the loop, so the scope is safe. So I can reuse the same thing here. Okay. This time, my test is going to look something like this. Okay. Very similar to what we just had up here. Starts with specifically is at the very beginning. Contains is basically the same thing, but it doesn't have to start with. So it could be dangerous depending on how creative they get with their phrasing. You know, Simon Says could be the very end, could be in the middle. We don't know, but it is a valid solution. And if everything is in the same format that we're seeing here, where they all start with it, then it's probably a safe bet. But this time we've got 5 things reading it, and we should print read a book, shrink, and grow in the second set. Read a book, shrink, and grow. Good. All right, and just as before, read.close, closing the second file out. Okay. Now, the third option is the most simplest, but it does take a little bit more to code. This is what I would imagine most of you tried to do at least once, because it's what we've done all the time. This one involves making a substring to test first, then determining if it's everything else. So again, we'll start off the exact same way. Simon3.txt. There. All right, from here, we still need to get rid of the metadata. And then we are ready to begin. Okay, I'll read.have next. Got our loop reading. And now, the problem with equals is we don't know how big the line is. So we can look back here. We had some that were just 5 characters. Stop. that doesn't even have enough to test if it's the same as Simon Says. Now kick, S-I-M-O-N space S-A-Y. Now kick doesn't even have enough. So the first thing we need to do is we need to have an if test just to make sure it's even possible to contain the phrase we're looking for. If it's not, then there's no point of even going on. So as long as it's there, then we have 0 to 11, because we know from above that's where Simon Says goes through, equals ignore case, to specifically Simon Says then we print the same thing we printed every time, so whatever comes after that. If you wanted to make sure you had curly brackets around the ifs, that's perfectly allowable. So nested ifs inside of a while statement that goes right there. And again, you'll have the read.close. This one is exceptionally extraneous just because it's the end, so it knows it's done. Let's see what we've got. Right, left, muscles clap. Right, left, muscles clap. So there is Simon Says 3 different ways. All valid entries, all correct and full credit. So I hope this helps. Y'all have a good one.